All right, and
Yeah, sounds good.
three, two, one. All right, and welcome back to the Reserve Squad Midweek show. We finally have week one in the books, and I'll say one of us is probably really happy about what happened, and maybe one of us is really treading the worst and already just preparing preparing for a long season. But that said, Rex, thanks for joining me again today.
Yeah, good to be back, man. It's good to have the Premier League back too. We're kind of in that boring spot where the only sports on is baseball, really.
Oh, for real.
So it's good to have the Premier League back in like a week or two earlier than it usually is. It's kind of weird. It feels like the season just ended. We keep saying that,
Mhm.
but it's good to be back.
Yeah, actually, just kind of bouncing off that, something I saw mentioned on Twitter is they were thinking maybe the transfer portal should actually close before the season started, and I kind of used to be in between, but man, just from a neutral, I feel like that would make July a whole lot more exciting than what it's been because I think a lot of teams are going to try to kind of weigh it off. Maybe there'll be a couple emergency injuries and a couple teams that actually did happen where this will help. But I don't know. Just it seems a lot of teams have actually kind of hold off on doing business, which I do think they'll be pretty active, in the coming
Yeah,
days. So
yeah. It's funny. Like so far, I know we're barely into August, but so far August hasn't really been too busy. So
mhm.
we'll see. Yeah, we'll see. A compacted transfer window might mean just all that business being done in June and July, but I don't know. They've been wrestling with that for a while, I feel like. So that's always something that
True.
they're trying to figure out, I guess.
All right, and I mean, before we I guess get started and going over the games, one idea I had was maybe do like a mini takeaway segment, and so I guess so. What would maybe be your main storyline or I guess headline, over week one, for you?
Ooh, well, I have a few, but the big one for me, I know Liverpool tied, but Salah scored, and this is his sixth straight opening day match in the EPL where he scored, and that's a Premier League record. And I know we texted about it, and that stat just kind of blew me away. Six opening matches in a row that he's scored. That's 6 years.
Yeah, I didn't
And
realize that
then
either.
Ben, you said a couple of those are hat tricks too. So I mean, and he had an assist, right? So man, he's just so good on opening day. And then for Everton with Godfrey getting hurt,
Mm.
and Dominic Calvert-Lewin before the season getting hurt too. But we'll talk about them a little bit. They're getting some reinforcements. And then we're going to talk about Brentford and Leicester. I feel like it was a tale of two subs. Rodgers kind of making a stupid one, and Frank probably making a two or three really good ones. So we'll get into that too. But those are kind of my quick headlines, I guess, from week one.
I like it. I like it. And for me, you kind of mentioned Salah, and I'm kind of one of those that thinks Salah is going to be the Golden Boot winner. But for the last couple of seasons, there was starting to be kind of a trend against maybe teams playing with a traditional number nine, and it seems City and Liverpool went out and got a big striker, and both got off the board running. Holland got two. And Mitrovic was a big number nine, and he put in a really good performance as well. So maybe maybe
Mhm.
the big tall striker isn't I guess gone like maybe we thought. Maybe it's returning. So we'll maybe see about that. Barca's
Yeah.
gone and picked up Robert Lewandowski. So yeah, maybe some of those storylines the last couple of seasons were written a little too soon. We'll get into that.
Yeah. Oh, we won't really touch on the La Liga, but
Yeah.
Barca and Lua and a couple other players might not be registered in time, and I guess they would have to sell them. So if you're listening, we're not really going to cover that, but just Google it and you'll be amazed. It's like a couple players that Barca signed, and they got to sell a player. I think Frankie De Jong basically needs to be sold in order for them to
Yeah,
make enough money to register them. So
I saw they're trying to like
kind of a crazy
go back
storyline.
on his contract. Yeah, that's wild.
Yeah,
Well, that's good for I guess the teams that are chasing him. And we'll get to both of those
yeah.
teams. But I guess
Just yeah, who knows where you go?
we'll get started with Man City and West Ham. I think that's a good game to kick it off with. Man City wins 2-0. It's rather comfortable. We mentioned Holland. Holland gets the first goal with a PK. He draws the PK. To his credit, and he goes and gets the second one. It's a brilliant ball by Kevin De Bruyne, and it's also a nice play by Grealish in the holdup. Grealish actually draws one of the fullbacks onto him, and then uh, Bowen is basically Bowen's actually in a pretty good position, marking Rodri, but then Cancelo makes a run, and Bowen follows Cancelo, I guess foolishly, and that leaves Rodri open. Rodri gets the ball in space, and Rodri just from a Liverpool perspective, I have watched City a lot in the past. Well, I guess people that watch football, I guess, have watched City. One thing I've noticed is
Yeah.
the two guys to mark really are De Bruyne and Rodri, and it's weird to say that because Rodri is more of the defensive guy, but everything goes through Rodri's feet. If you watch City, like he'll end a game, he doesn't really it doesn't flash on the screen, but he'll have 100 plus touches every single game, and so
Yeah.
Rodri and De Bruyne play a big part in the goal, and I guess we'll just kind of get started with City. I've seen a lot of people already crown City as champions. I mean, what did you think of your performance? Was there maybe something that people were missing? Like, were they maybe not as bright as some of the commentators were saying?
No, I mean, I thought they were pretty bright. I think we've seen a little bit more like electricity out of them offensively in the past with Sterling's blazing pace and things like that. But for me, City they were on cruise control this game
Hmm. Yeah,
for me, and I mean, it just looked easy. The players are kind of having a good time just knocking the ball around. They crushed West Ham in possession and in passes.
yeah,
It was just easy, man. Ah, man. And Rodri, like you said, is just an amazing player to watch. Sometimes, he doesn't necessarily show up with goals or assists, but like you said, it's like 100 passes. He's probably like 99 out of 100 made. So he never turns the ball over, it
that
feels
too.
like. And then, that deep lying number 6 with the good ball over the top. I mean, I think you'll talk about Haaland too, but I think Grealish, Foden, Rodri, De Bruyne, Gundogan, all these guys that can provide great service to Haaland, more so than he got at Dortmund for sure. It's going to be he might score a lot. I know you're going to touch on that, but it's pretty good so far, and it's their first EPL game together, and Haaland already got 2 goals, so it's a really good start.
Yeah, I mean, I guess I've been kind of going back and forth on this. I mean, they only had two shots on target all game, and one of their goals was a PK. So they weren't nearly as threatening, but as you said, they were in cruise control, so maybe they didn't have to be. One thing that was kind of surprising to me is, I mean, it was only a few months ago where it was at the same ground at West Ham. The second to last week in the season, West Ham took it to them, and
Yeah.
we didn't see any of that in this game, which was just really surprising to me. But
Mhm.
yeah, I mean, I feel like we have to lead off with Holland. City's golden boy gets off
Yeah.
to golden start or golden boot start. I guess we'll say. I mean, did you notice City playing differently with him than I guess maybe they did last year?
Oh yeah, definitely. I mean, because last year I think they probably started with like Jesus as a false nine, and Jesus isn't that big either. So, he's really fast, but Holland's fast, and now he's got some height, and he's pretty good in the air. I know he wasn't that great. He had a couple headers that weren't that great, in this game, but he's usually pretty good in the air. Maybe I just chalk it off to like it's his first game. So yeah, I mean, they just have like a big, tall number 9 now, and they can actually send balls into the box. And we have their overlapping fullbacks that like to get up. They can deliver some pinpoint balls, and he'll just attack, attack, attack. And he's just so big and physical. And
Hmm.
I think like 25 minutes into the game, he collides with Fabianski, and Fabianski gets hurt and has to leave. So
Yep.
that's another, Ariel is a pretty good keeper, but just another example of how like big and physical Holland
And
is.
that's pretty big
I
because
think he's
maybe Fabianski just come
yeah,
in. Maybe Fabianski doesn't go to ground and draw creates the PK that Ariola did as well because
yeah, true.
Ariola just
A
had
little bit
just
more
come on.
experience. And,
Yeah.
hmm Yeah, that's tough too to just come on. Like,
Hmm. I like that. And like one thing I kind of noticed was he played Foden on the right side, so he played Foden and Grealish together. So we didn't see Mahrez in this game, and we saw a deliberate attempt to, at least on Foden's end, to cross the ball a lot. In a way I haven't really cross the ball in the air too. In a way I haven't really seen before. And we saw De Bruyne getting in some spaces out wide, and he was sending crosses in. And it definitely seemed like they were trying to feed Holland the ball in a way that I don't think they would have done with someone like Jesus in last year. So that's I mean they were playing Bernardo Silva sometimes at striker to like basically
Yeah.
bring center backs out of position. They try to pass the ball in. Um,
Mhm.
but I mean one thing I was kind of wondering about is I don't know if you paid attention to what the commentators were saying, but they noticed that Cancelo and Walker were maybe playing in a little bit of a different position. They were almost playing in midfield essentially. Uh, did you kind of notice that, or what were your thoughts on that?
Yeah, yeah. I mean, they are always pretty attacking at fullback,
Hmm.
which I guess it kind of suits Ake because he is pretty quick, and he's played fullback in emergency situations too.
Hmm.
So maybe if Laporte comes back, maybe they pull their fullbacks back a little bit just for extra cover. But I think it also has to do with Rodri being so disciplined that
Yeah.
Cancelo can go up, Rodri can come back, and Walker can go up, and they still have a back three at least. And Gundogan can kind of pinch in and tuck, and so can De Bruyne. I mean, they're well drilled. I do think the depth at fullback is an issue possibly
Hmm.
because when they got rid of Zinchenko, it seemed like the plan was to get Cucurella, and they missed out on him. So I think the search for a fullback is still on, and they'll probably bring someone in because that's a spot where they might need some depth, and maybe center back too, because if Ake or Diaz got hurt with Laporte out, then they have like Stones, and I don't know about him. I mean, he might be able to play one good game, but so maybe some center back depth too is kind of what I got from this. But midfield striker, they're pretty good. They could use another holding mid maybe, but they'll probably go out and get a full back for sure.
Well, I saw something this morning that did not make me happy. Well, technically, I saw something this morning that made me very happy, and then the following news was awful. So it does seem like Barca and Bernardo Silva do have an agreement made, which is blowing my mind because as you're talking about, Barca literally don't have
Yeah, how
money
are they
for the
gonna?
players that they have now. Um,
No,
but
yeah,
it's looking like the player that they would go after if they did sell Bernardo Silva. We were talking about that last week. If they would probably have to go get someone if they did this, is Jude Bellingham
yeah.
of uh, of
Ooh,
Dortmund, and this it makes sense to me that he's available this year. There's been a lot of talk for Liverpool fans. Oh, they'll just go get him next year. He doesn't have. It's not like Holland. He doesn't have a release clause. He has a contract until 2025 essentially, and after he's probably going to feature in the World Cup and probably going to star if Southgate does play him. He's going to be as expensive at least next year as he is this year. So it makes sense if you want him. It makes sense to go get him this year if you can. And so,
yeah,
and I think he would fit in City's midfield. I've said that before. He's got something that really they don't have. In those like tough physical games when it comes to like winning second balls, you have Rodri in there, but Foden would offer like a different kind of steel to them. Foden would, I mean not Foden, Bellingham would scare me if they got
well,
him.
how about Calvin Phillips? Do you think he can kind of fill that backup role to Rodri? I mean, he's probably not as good as Bellingham, but
See,
he's still pretty good.
one thing I'd be worried about if I'm Calvin Phillips is Pep hasn't played me with Rodri yet. So it does seem maybe he's going to be, basically the Fernandinho role. I mean, that's fine
Yeah.
if Phillips wants that. But I mean, if I'm Calvin Phillips right now, I'm kicking myself not going to Man United. You get to play with Pep. You probably get Champions League glory. Well, you'll get Premier League glory.
Premier League.
You'll
Yeah.
get to play in the Champions League. But yeah, Calvin Phillips, I think would have worked elsewhere. But yeah, that's a good question. I mean, maybe I don't know what this would do to Calvin Phillips if they did go get June. I mean, one thing to say is Bernardo Silva didn't even play in this. Well, he didn't start in this game. Pep played Gundogan and De Bruyne. So maybe something was in the cards already. But I like what you said about the left back. I think one of the maybe negatives in Cancelo's game is he doesn't really have a left foot, and so the reason why he plays inverted is he likes cutting on his right foot, so he tries to play more in the central part of the field. He's not going to make these overlap runs to try to cross the ball with his left foot. And what I've noticed is that's where Grealish struggles. So I looked back at some highlights last year, or I guess 2 years ago when he was at Villa. He always had an overlapping fullback to at least make a defender at least think maybe he's going to get a
Yeah.
pass, and that's the reason why he was cut back. He was able to cut inside, and he was able to create a whole lot that way. And I feel like he's really missing that. And
Yeah, that's a good point.
so it'll be very interesting to see if they do try to go get a left back. I mean, we'll get into Cucurella's performance for Chelsea because he only came on in the second half. But you saw within that 12-minute cameo why City would want him.
He's
So
just a great passer. Yeah, like first couple passes were like bullets on the ground right to people, and he just came off the bench into like the melee, and it was really good in his brief cameo. So yeah, I think City kind of missed a target there, and I guess they didn't want to pay that much for him. I think it was 70 mil, so maybe that's why. But
mhm.
yeah, I think they need a fullback for sure.
And so let's get a little bit into to West Ham. Unfortunately, with everyone praising City, that does mean that they didn't necessarily have the best week or they did something negative. And I mentioned how I thought it was almost a toothless performance in some respects.
Yeah.
And we mentioned how it was only a short time ago where they gave City a pretty good game. So I mean, what were you thinking on this?
Yeah, I agree. I thought honestly, I thought they'd be a pretty fun, attacking team to watch in this one. I thought they'd kind of take it to City at least for like periods of the game, and they really didn't. And I mean, Bowen was disappointing. He has really high expectations just because he was so amazing last year. But I mean, Bowen didn't do much. You said Antonio looked tired. He looked kind of tired to
Yeah,
me,
he
or
almost didn't
rusty,
look.
I
He
guess
almost looked injured.
himself.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. But I mean, like it's hard. It's hard. But if you look at the stats, it's crazy. Like City had 600 more passes almost. I mean, wait, was it 600? 400, 400. It was
It was like
200.
200 and something to like
Oh,
730.
it was. Yeah, it was almost 600. It was 530 more passes. Wow, that's amazing. But I mean, I do like some of the signings that West Ham have made. We're going to see like Skamaka came in a little bit,
Mhm.
and you thought he was a lot better than Antonio up top, and he scored a boatload last year for Sassuolo, and I think he's going to be a really good player. But I don't know. I'm a little worried about their defense. Duma's pretty good. But Johnson partnered with them. I don't know.
I mean,
I
they
don't
started
know. And we
Cresswell
talked about like
at center back, and
Cresswell.
because they're,
Gosh,
I mean, that really did hurt them because I mean, Cresswell's actually a pretty good attacking
he's a good
fullback.
fullback.
Yeah,
Yeah.
but
hmm
they had to do that
hmm
because they're so short in defensive options.
Yeah.
Ogbonna still
Aguerd.
hasn't recovered from his. I think he did his ACL in. Um, and
Ugh.
the signing that they made, Agard, is that his name?
Aguerd. Yeah.
Yeah,
Aguerd.
he's already got an injury that I think is out till December, uh, November or
Ugh.
December, and
We
the
thought he was going to be really good too for them.
I think another one of their guys, Dawson, who I don't necessarily rate, but at least he's a body. He apparently
Mm.
hurt himself in the preseason game before the City game. So yeah,
Mm.
West Ham are all of a sudden stretched really thin, and they made some signings. They brought in Skamaka and they just got in Cornet, which I think is pretty exciting for them.
Oh, that'll help too. Yeah, good point there.
But yeah, it
That should help
feels
Bowen open up too.
it feels they're going to, and Cornet has goals in him. He can
Good.
he's a match winner in some respects. So that'll
hmm
definitely help their attack. Just yeah, maybe it's just one of those where it didn't fit them this day. A lot of people have talked about West Ham as maybe being finally a top four and getting into that because they weren't that far off in the last 2 years. And part of me thinks they're they're maybe short in center back depth and definitely short in midfield. I think they need something else.
Yeah, I think you're right.
And so let's see. I guess that's maybe all we have on them. So I guess we'll trying to delay. We'll get into Liverpool Fulham. Um, uh,
Yeah.
this was the first game on Saturday. I was excited to. I went to bed early. I was excited to wake up and had my coffee and I was ready for a good game. Ready for maybe a Salah hat trick, as we said, because that happened last year when they played a promoted side in Norwich, and that did not happen. So yeah, it ends 2-2. It starts with Mitrovic getting the first goal. He hits the ball over Trent. A lot of people were going at Trent on this, and maybe he could do better. But I feel like you have to stop the supply, and frankly, it's one of those things where, like, if Kanati had been able to play instead, I think he's maybe in a better position to head that away. I don't know. I mean, people gotta get on Trent. It just seems to do it because he's so gifted offensively. It feels like you have to
Yeah.
criticize him. So maybe that's just my Liverpool talking. I don't know. But Darwin is able to get the goal to get it back to 1-1. He comes on for Firmino. Firmino didn't have the best half. We're gonna get into.
Yeah.
He has a crazy backheel goal. And we'll maybe get into that a little bit later. And then Salah is able to get his goal. It's also the Salah assist for Nunez's first goal, and all of a sudden things were looking better, and then Mitrovic really does pull a fast one on Van Dijk and
Yeah.
draws the PK. I was kind of iffy on it. I've seen online that the thoughts are that it was the right call. Basically, it's one of those where like you
Yeah.
probably just go with what the ref decided. So far, it's not going to overturn it because it's not
Mhm.
an obvious error. Um,
Yeah.
and a lot of people were thinking, oh, this maybe means Van Dijk is done. And what I'm thinking about is again, this goes back to Matip being played because Kanate actually has a bigger injury than we thought. It's looking like he might be
Mm.
out for a little bit. Is
Ooh.
well, Matip tries to do a pass and it doesn't come off. And to be fair to him, he's basically responsible for the first goal. He has a wonderful pass to Milner, but he tries like kind of a similar ball and it doesn't come off. And Fulham are able to kind of break. And really, I can't remember in the last maybe few seasons where Van Dijk's been one on one where he's been on the right side of the field. He plays on the left. And so, a lot of people were like, "Oh, Van Dijk can't really cut or defend or use that knee defending on the right side of the field." But to be fair, he's in most occasions he's not going to need to. So I mean, Mitrovic
Yeah.
did a really nice cut. He's clever. He draws the PK, and yeah, it ends 2-2. And so I don't know. I'm just gonna get started on the positives, and then I'll I actually have a lot to say. Well, I'll just get your thoughts. I mean, I'm not going to say necessarily that I was expecting this, but I mean, were you? What were you thinking about going into this? I mean, you just saw Arsenal. A lot of people were getting on Arsenal for struggling versus Palace, and then you know, here's the crow. Just a couple hours later.
Yeah. I mean, it was definitely surprising, but it was kind of, I think, just Liverpool kind of just didn't get out of first gear until the second half, kind of. And
Yep.
Firmino was poor, obviously. Changing him out really changed things. I mean, honestly, too, for Fulham, I wasn't expecting Mitrovic to really have that great of a year. I know he scored like almost almost 40 goals in the championship,
Hmm.
but the last time Fulham was promoted, he scored a bunch in the championship, and then really didn't even play much in the Premier League. So
Yeah.
I was kind of worried that maybe something like that might happen. But man, he kind of came back with a vengeance in the EPL, and the second goal, the PK. Yeah, I mean, it was soft because there was like no contact there, but I guess Van Dijk kind of just impeded on Mitrovic's running,
Hmm.
and if there was no contact, there would have been contact eventually, basically. So it was kind of soft, but I get why it was given. And man, Mitrovic was good, and I think though, Ben, I don't think you have to worry about Liverpool. I think once they kind of got it going, I think they'll come out this week. What do they play? Saturday or Sunday? They'll come out,
They play Monday,
and I think they'll be kind of like we saw in the second half. Oh, Monday
and they
against
play they
Forrest
play
too.
Palace Monday. Uh,
But there are some I guess disappointing things to take away from this game. But mainly for me, it's just Thiago got hurt again. And last week we talked about how important it is for Thiago to be healthy, and then
that
he gets
lasted
hurt
all
like
of
in the
like
first game.
30
So
minutes.
mhm. I mean, that's something like as an Arsenal fan, I know your pain there, and it really does suck. It's frustrating, especially when it's that talented of a player and they consistently get injured. I mean, I guess it might be time to bring someone in because Henderson didn't have that great of a game in this one,
Yeah.
and you don't necessarily want to rely on him and Milner much if you don't have to.
Yeah, and this is where I'm gonna. I don't want to say go off, but yeah, just everything that I was like dreading, just like I guess like the nightmare scenario, basically happened and showed up, or everything I was like worried about going into the season, showed up in this game. So no, I wasn't expecting this kind of result, but I was kind of fearing that this was a possibility in some manner. Yeah, Thiago does his hamstring basically 30 minutes into the game. I think he's overrunning, overcompensating because one thing that was really noticeable is Fulham were not afraid of Liverpool. I mean, their midfield looked more athletic, and Henderson can't run the way he used to, and I don't think Fabinho can either. And frankly, it wasn't the most athletic midfield that we've seen, and it's there's all this promise after that City performance. But just losing Thiago, Klopp's gonna have to change some things. Obviously, Keita wasn't able to play because
Yeah.
he was ill, so he didn't miss because of an injury. But again, Keita he's kind of like Thiago. He's very hit and miss.
Yeah. He is.
The joke is that basically when usually when Thiago's out, that's when Keita's good, and when Keita gets hurt, that's when Thiago's good. There's like the
Right.
balance.
They balance each other
All
out.
thing must come to a balance. Yeah, must balance. So maybe we'll see that, and this will be a chance for Keita to really star. To be honest, because there's really no one else that can play on that left side and can be the controller that Thiago is. And
Yeah.
frankly, it goes back to when they lost Gini Ronaldo a season ago. They never replaced him,
Mhm.
and Ronaldo was basically the engine of that midfield. He had the athleticism on that side. He was able to track back, but he was also really good possession of the ball. He was really good at beating a press and just keeping possession. Now, he didn't have the fancy passes and flicks that Thiago has, so people got onto him.
Yeah.
But
True.
yeah, so that was it. Rough. Henderson really was as bad as I think I've seen, and frankly, this has been coming. His decline has been showing for a very long time, and he just he didn't just look unathletic. He was just really bad on the ball. But that he's been like that for a while as well. But on the first goal, he tries to buy like a free kick. The refs having none of it, and basically it makes Liverpool playing with 10 men at that point, and that hurts. Like Trent had to basically mark two guys when Fulham were able to do that counter because
And
Henderson
then
loses the
Trent
ball.
can't get up. That's
Henderson
much
loses the ball
either.
and stays on the ground. Yeah, um,
Mhm.
but he was so bad. When the pass isn't like completely onto him, he tries to just hit something in the air, and just he gives possession away. When Harvey Elliott came on in that second half, that right side worked so much better.
Oh yeah.
You saw Trent able to get into better positions because Harvey Elliott he's able to get the ball, collect it, and keep it, and draw defenders close to him, and then you can spray it outright to where the space is. Um, so
Yeah. Harvey was bright when he came on for sure.
yeah, he was. And you mentioned Firmino, and one of the biggest things that one thing I was wondering is how much different is Darwin going to be when he comes on as opposed to how they played in the past, right? Even how they played with Mane. And Darwin is making forward runs pretty much any time he's on the field, essentially. And what was happening in that first half is it was only Diaz and Salah that were able to really try to make forward runs, and Liverpool weren't able to advance the ball and keep it at all. Van Dijk was trying to do these like crossfield balls to Salah, and they weren't really coming off. And
Yeah.
Fulham were just able to really win the ball quickly. And Liverpool weren't able to turn them over. Um, and so I was really disappointed in Firmino, to be honest. Now I let it slide versus City because you recognize that you don't necessarily have to be like a true number nine or whatever versus City. Like the whole point is being an outlet in midfield and helping control possession. And I thought he had a pretty good game versus City, to be fair. But it just did not work versus
Yeah.
Fulham, and that is a concern. And so you mentioned maybe Klopp has to go into the market, and I think so as well. I mean, Harvey Elliott can maybe play on that right side, but it doesn't seem Klopp's going to do anything with Henderson. So maybe not. Fabinho needs to play better. Uh, I mean, yeah, I'm almost at a loss. I mean, they do have Curtis Jones. I mean, he's just injured now, but it's not a long term injury. Maybe the idea is to get him more playing time, and maybe he can develop in a way that Harvey Elliott has. But in the preseason, I've seen him on the ball, and he's slow with decisions. He doesn't look comfortable, but I just think he hasn't had playing time. it would have been good to
Yeah,
send him on loan this year.
playing time would help.
Um,
Yeah, good call.
so I would,
Carvalho was good though. He was exciting, and he might have to play a little bit more.
I think so. Yeah, there's been talk for a while that maybe Liverpool are going to play with maybe two in midfield and have like a number 10 kind of creator player,
Ooh,
and maybe Elliott can do that role. Maybe that's where Firmino would work best. But again, I don't think they have the midfield.
true.
You can't play Henderson and Fabinho together. You'll get run over.
No, yeah, too
Um,
slow. Yeah,
so it's going to it's going to be a different Liverpool this season. And maybe some names I guess I'll say that I would like to see, especially if City go get Bellingham. That's the guy you've been searching for. Uh, Mateus Nunes has been a name that's been thrown out a lot. I only know of him because Pep talked about him nonstop after City played Sporting in the Champions League. But and people look at the F brief thing. He doesn't necessarily star with those numbers, but
yeah,
he passes the eye test at least. He's very strong. Doesn't necessarily have the best pass on him, but he's. I think I saw that he was the number one dribbler, at least for successful dribbles in the Champions League.
really, huh?
Yeah, or at
Huh?
least maybe in the group
Dang.
stage. So
Yeah,
he would be significantly different than what Liverpool have, but maybe that's what they need. And
yeah,
he's got legs for days. He's very quick and pacey. And if that's not in the cards, Lavara Major for Rennes is a player that I think people don't necessarily know now, but I think will within a year or so. I'm pretty sure he'll play for Croatia in the World Cup. This guy, I don't want to say he's Modric-esque, but he's very skillful as well. And
I saw a little bit
he can be a
of
little
their
creative.
game too this weekend. Yeah, he was good. Yeah, he was solid. Um, and I mean, pretty good player. Yeah, so I think he would do well too. Um, just someone faster than Fabinho and Hendo, please, right? Like, give me a little bit more speed there.
I mean, the thing I don't understand is like they were so close to getting to Chouameni. Um, at
Mhm.
least if you believe the reports, maybe that was a complete head fake. But if the idea was to get Chouameni, and they also had agents speaking with Darwin at the time, because that deal happened about the same time, so there's no way that they were only going to do one or the other. So the idea
Right.
had to have been they were going to spend 80 plus million for two players. Why
Mhm.
aren't you doing that now? I don't. The talk has been they were because Bellingham's not available. They were going to save that for the transfer budget next year and go big on Bellingham. But if you lose him now, what's the point? So
Yeah, you put in the script like you're wasting another year of Salah's prime, potentially
mhm.
Van Dyke's prime. Robertson and Alexander. You don't want to waste like a year when you have this much talent that you can win trophy, you can win Premier League, you can win Champions League. All you need is maybe one or two players. Like, you got to do it now, right? And I think you kind of put that in the script too. Like, why wait?
I mean, there's so many other players that you could have played. They just needed one player last year, and I think they would have won the quad. At least I think they would have won the Premier League with another midfielder. They missed Thiago for basically every game but two versus the top four last year,
Yeah.
and they missed
Mm.
they missed Thiago versus Brentford. Basically any game Liverpool dropped points. Brighton, any game Liverpool dropped points before December, Thiago didn't play. Like West Ham, West Ham actually beat them. So I mean, they only missed out by like a point or so to City. So I mean there's the Premier League right there. So I don't
Yeah.
know. We kind of went a little overboard with Liverpool. Um, I mean for Fulham. And one thing I do want to say is I'm super excited to see right foot Salah back. This is now two games in a row where he's either help. Basically, he's given an assist with that right foot, and
Mm.
we saw that again. So hopefully we're going to see more of that. Salah is a right-footed creator, two foot Salah this year. Um, I mean, we should speak a little bit about Fulham. One negative is they did only have 180 passes, but they it looked like they were comfortable going long, and Mitrovic actually looked pretty good at least fighting Van Dijk and trying to win balls down. But I mean, did anyone other than Mitrovic maybe stand out to you? I mean, two Americans on the field. I guess we could maybe say
Yeah,
that
two
as
Americans,
well.
Robinson and Ream. That was fun. A lot of Americans in the Premier League to watch. But
Ream
I
had
thought
Ream
Paulinho
had
was
a
good
Ream had a
too.
goal line clearance as well.
Oh, he did. Yeah, he did. But I liked Paulinho. I thought he was really good. He's a new signing
Yeah.
from Portugal, and he was solid back there. I think he made a really good debut. I mean, the keeper's not going to be a starting keeper. Leno's on the bench, but he just came so he couldn't play. He should strengthen some things up
That
too.
was funny
But
too. Yeah.
I don't know. I'm still worried. I'm still a little worried about Fulham. I don't because if they're going to have to rely on Mitrovic, I don't. I just think some teams will key in on that and just shut Mitrovic down, and
Hmm.
they're going to have some other playmakers step up at that point.
I think so as well. And it also seemed they maybe, they started off pressing really, really strong. In that second half, they looked a little winded.
Yeah,
Yeah.
they got tired.
All
Very
right.
good point.
So, sorry for kind of putting you through that, but I'll let you actually kind of do the same thing. So we'll get to Arsenal and Palace. So this ends 2-0, goals from Martinelli and Mark Gahey, but I'm going to basically credit to Saka because why not? It doesn't help for fantasy, but Saka basically forces the goal. So we'll do that. Um, but I kind of made a joke earlier that people were kind of giving a go at Arsenal for maybe not playing champagne football. Maybe it wasn't that 5-0 FIFA victory that people were envisioning for the first game. But to be honest, Palace, you get a clean sheet, and away at Selhurst Park is not an easy place to play. So I think this
Yeah,
this result it looks better maybe than people realize. So yeah, so I guess
yeah. I
we'll.
think I think Crystal Palace isn't an easy out. They're always going to be hard to play, and they were tough in this one too. Missed a couple chances. They could have really gotten something out of the match if they brought their shooting boots, but
Mhm.
I mean, you just look at their lineup and it's not bad. It's pretty good. I thought Anderson was pretty good at center back. Gahey had an own goal, but he's a really good young player. I mean, they missed someone like Gallagher. I wish they could get someone like him because someone that's that good. I want to see him starting games, not sitting on the bench at Chelsea. But yeah, I mean, I think it was a pretty evenly. I mean, if you look at the stats, Arsenal lost some in some of the passing stats and things like that. They actually got played, but I thought it was pretty good performance by Arsenal. Like you said, just get the clean sheet. Maybe get the center back pairing a little bit more time. I thought Saliba was amazing.
Yeah.
He's going to be hopefully really good players. Zinchenko was good. Jesus was good. So it seems like all the players they brought in were pretty good.
We'll do a we'll
One
do a little
concern, yeah,
we'll do a little plug where like we've mentioned Saliba for maybe a year or so. So
yeah, he's been on. Well, he won Young French Player of the Year for the French League last year.
mhm.
So at that point, people were like, "Hey, maybe we should play him, get him back, and play him at Arsenal." But and you put in the script, Odegaard kind of faded. I definitely agree. We need Emil Smith Rowe would probably be
Yeah,
nice when healthy, but it kind of shows like maybe why you need to get someone like Tillmans because if Odegaard or Emil Smith Rowe is hurt, then you got some problems there, and you need a couple good midfielders. I feel like, but it was a good performance. I think Zinchenko was really good. Had that assist. Tierney got in for a little bit, and KT got in for a little bit. It was a pretty good performance. Ramsdale was a little iffy with his feet at times. I think
yeah,
this could
yeah. He
have kind of
was.
focused on that. There was a couple scary moments, but I think it was kind of it's the first game of the season, so there's going to be a little bit of rustiness. I know the World Cup's coming up, so players are like really going for these games and trying to get on national team squads and things like that. But there's still a little bit of rustiness. You need just some more game minutes playing with each other. But it was a pretty good performance. I think Crystal Palace will be a pretty solid team, and they're always a tough out.
Mhm.
And like you said, at Selhurst, those fans are crazy. They're always really loud there. So I think it's a good win and it's a good shutout. I think something to build on, obviously. So
Hmm. Yeah, I mean, well, I guess you kind of you talked about Odegaard. I mean, what did you think of Gabriel? And you talked about Salva. What did you think of Gabriel Jesus coming in?
I thought he was
Um,
good. Yeah, I thought he
yeah.
was really good. I think he's someone that we've been missing up top. Since Aubameyang kind of dried up in the goals.
Mhm.
But I thought he was good. He's slick. He's got some moves. He's got some foot skills. He was kind of unlucky not to get on the score sheet here.
Mhm.
Thought he was great. I just hope we continue to kind of just. I kind of like this front three. I hope we kind of continue to play it like that with Saka cutting in. Kind of Martinelli was good, and then Jesus has so much speed. The only thing is, Jesus isn't that tall, but if you bring in Nketiah, he's a little bit better in the air. So it's good to have two options, I think.
Mhm.
But I'm still worried about depth. I'm really worried about depth, and it's Arsenal. So I feel like players will get hurt, and you're playing more games now that you're in Europa League. So I still feel like they just need a little bit more depth. Maybe in the midfield. Ben White played fullback,
Yeah,
so and
I wanted to get
we
into
have
it about that.
Suarez and Tomiyasu. So I don't know. I'd like to see maybe just one more signing, and then I think they'll be okay, barring injuries
Mhm.
or like a terrible run of form.
I mean, do you think Arsenal? I mean, Arteta is going to play this kind of formation with Ben White. We've seen Ben White at fullback now for a couple of games because he played that when they played Chelsea, and I guess because
Yeah.
Saliba's come in, I don't necessarily know if Ben White can play. Or I don't know which side Ben White normally plays on, if it's Saliba or Gabriel's. But this is interesting how it's maybe shutting him out. Now, Jeremy thinks that it's not really a back four, that because the way that Zinchenko was going up, it was really a back three, and Zinchenko was mostly
Yeah.
playing in midfield. Um,
Mhm.
but that basically and I guess it makes Saka, I guess, your wing back. But basically it was leaving one thing so that makes sense. So one thing I noticed was when Arsenal were trying to press, it was only basically two of them. So it would be Gabriel Jesus and Martinelli is kind of two trying to take on, I guess Crystal Palace, I guess, like center backs, but with the goalie, it's really three, and they weren't able to do it. And you saw Odegaard not being that third player. And I thought
Yeah.
you mentioned Odegaard, maybe not necessarily having his best game. I really do agree, and it wasn't necessarily just when he was on the ball. It was it seemed he just wanted to play in midfield as almost like this 10 where he needed to be that
Yeah.
third guy, or Arteta needed to do something different. And so I don't know if he basically did that because of Zinchenko or not. So maybe it was a back three. But because it started off really, really great after that. But after that first 20 minutes, Palace kind of figured it out, and Palace regrouped,
Mhm.
and Arsenal kind of struggled a little after that.
They
But
did. Yeah.
yeah, but I mean, again, for first game, and I am not the person to call out a team struggling. But after winning 2-0. I mean, and you mentioned the two Ramsdale saves. Ramsdale's a good keeper. People give him
Yeah.
stick, but he's maybe coming for that England job. We'll see about that.
Yeah. Yeah. He's good with his hands, and he's good with his feet, but a little iffy, and made me a little nervous in this one. So hopefully he can clean that up as well.
I mean, that was another, like, you play someone like Odegaard because they feel like he would want to run back to try to get the ball, but it just in that second half it seemed that everyone was kind of scared of it. You didn't see
Hmm.
someone running to get the ball. Maybe that's something Smith Rowe definitely would have done. I feel like.
Yeah.
Uh,
Yeah. Good point.
yeah. So, I mean, and
And Tierney too.
we'll talk about what Tierney does as a different than Zinchenko is he'll make these overlap runs too, and
Mhm.
that'll free up Martinelli or whoever's playing on the wing. Uh,
Yeah. Oh yeah.
so, I mean, one of the neat things I guess is Arsenal now have a squad. Maybe they're short a little bit in midfield, but they do have a squad to at least be more experimental. And it'll show what Arteta can do tactically. He's got
Oh yeah.
options to play now. Um,
Yeah,
but
you have like Shaka. Shaka, I noticed, was coming back and filling in for Zinchenko at left back because Shaka's played there before,
mhm.
especially last year when Tierney got hurt and Tavares wasn't doing that well. So yeah, it's a lot of things he can do tactically now. So hopefully that'll help. And I mean, he's started under Pep, and now he has, maybe not the players that City have, but maybe the gap's closing a little bit, and he can kind of do more with his tactics. So yeah, we'll see. I'm excited about it though. It's good to be able to change things up
Yeah,
because you play
well, it's
everyone
important.
twice.
Yeah.
So yeah,
Also, Arsenal does have European football this year, so they need to have a bigger squad.
yeah, they do
Um,
definitely.
and
Yeah,
so,
much more games.
we'll get into a little into Palace. Oh, it started off really, really bad for them. Like we said, that first 20 minutes. Arsenal. I mentioned they weren't playing champagne football. They almost were. Arsenal looked really good,
Mm-hmm.
but then they were able to kind of regroup. It seemed like they started like marking Odegaard a little bit more, and they prevented him from getting the ball. And Palace was
Mm-hmm.
really good at both pressing and maybe getting Arsenal to turn the ball over, but also really good at moving the ball quickly themselves. Now they didn't
Yeah.
necessarily have the best passing numbers, but just it, it one of the I guess this gets like to another point is that a lot of teams in the Premier League now do play football. Like, it's not all of it's not Burnley ball anymore like maybe it used to
Mm-hmm.
be. I mean,
Yes, no Stoke or anything.
and just Palace is a lot of quick, speedy athletes everywhere. They didn't have Elise. I think putting Elise into that squad really does
Mm-hmm.
really does change them. You've got he's very good on the ball, and Zaha you know, not necessarily to pick on Ben White. Ben White wasn't necessarily the best when it came to like offering any kind of threat going forward. He was also poor
Yeah.
defensively. I thought Zaha had him on skates, and
Yeah.
Zaha
Yeah. A
looked
couple times
Zaha
for
looked
sure.
really good. Palace will do well to keep him because
Yeah.
I feel like there could be some top teams that would make it maybe take a shot on him. To be honest, I mean he's still
Yeah.
only like
I feel like
20,
he's
20,
gonna.
28, 29.
I feel like he's gonna stay now, just because he stayed so long. And you're right, though. People like bigger clubs have been trying to get him. It seems like for like 3 years now, at least,
And for the
maybe in
longest time,
four.
it
So.
seemed like he was open to that, or he was trying to force a
Mm-hmm.
move at one point. But maybe being with Vieira has just kind of changed that a little bit. And one thing I'll say is, I thought Eze looked pretty good for being. He didn't necessarily have the best year last year, but he's coming off an Achilles, and just
Yeah.
being able to be somewhat yourself. I mean, we've seen what that injury has done to someone like Hudson Odoi for Chelsea. He's not the same player,
Mm.
and
Yeah. It's
it's
your
going to
speed is basically gone
it's
after
going to
that.
it's
So.
going to take him some time to basically be he can't be like the winger that he was, but he can be creative. He showed some good cuts and some good passing and almost scored. He was through on
Mhm.
goal and forced a pretty good save out of Ramsey. So
Yeah.
and you mentioned Mark Gahey. I'm just gonna like do a little plug here. No ulterior motive on my end, but if he does stake it up a little bit because I didn't think he was really great for the corner kick goal that Arsenal scored. So you can maybe blame I won't say blame him, but he has some fault I think for Arsenal's two goals. And if he starts kind of stinking it up, there is an American now on the bench that I wouldn't mind
Yeah.
seeing some minutes. So our Vieira did go get
Yeah.
Chris
I'd
Richards and starting to
love
see
for him to play.
starting to see some Americans actually, well, at least make some benches in the EPL in a way
Oh
we
yeah.
haven't necessarily seen. So that's pretty exciting too.
Mhm. Yeah. There's a bunch. It's awesome.
And we'll move on to Chelsea and Everton. Hopefully, I'm not. Hopefully, the show isn't going to be 2 hours, but we'll see.
Yeah. We might have to speed it up.
Yeah, I mean, this we can probably speed up on this one. I mean, I don't know, but so it ends 1-0, Jorginho PK. And frankly, I don't know about you, but this was maybe the most predictable result I think for the entire weekend. Not just the
Yeah.
scoreline, but just the performance of both teams. We went in thinking that Chelsea have done well to surround the team with everyone but finishers. And that kind of shows up. You don't see where the goals are necessarily going to come from in this squad.
Yeah.
And but one thing we should talk about is they did have a couple debuts, and they both, well, basically all three of them played pretty well. And I guess we'll kind of start there. I mean, out of Sterling, Cucurella, and Koulibaly, I mean, who maybe impressed you the most?
Ooh. I, I would probably say I don't know. It would be either Sterling or Koulibaly.
Hmm.
Um, I mean, Sterling is used to the Premier League. Koulibaly coming from Napoli isn't, so maybe Koulibaly gets the edge
Hmm.
just because it's his first EPL game and he looked pretty solid. But Sterling was good too. I mean, now that Werner's gone, so Sterling should be a pretty key focal point for Chelsea. And yeah, you mentioned it was one of the predictable games. Actually, like on the what is it called? Oh, the NBC Sports app. You can like predict 5 scores correctly or whatever.
Yeah.
So I had actually after Saturday, I had 0.4% that I had won
Oh.
because the only game I got right so far was Chelsea and Everton 1-0. So I thought that was funny.
Oh, that's
I
great.
was like, oh, 4/10 of a cent, and then of course Sunday came and I lost all of that. So didn't win 4/10 of a cent or anything, but yeah, it was kind of a predictable game. And I am worried about we're worried about Everton. We talked about their depth last week,
Mm.
and first game and two big players on defense, Mina and Godfrey. They got Connor Cody on loan, so he's a pretty solid player. But still, it seems like Everton are just in this injury cycle the last couple years, and it's really hurt them. I mean, they almost got relegated last year because of it, and now you already have Dominic Calvert-Lewin out before the first game of the year, and Godfrey and Mina. Godfrey broken leg. He's going to be a couple months. So I mean, it's just sad to see because I want to see all these teams healthy and see what happens then. I don't want a team to get relegated just because they just cannot keep their players healthy. It's just as a Liverpool fan too, about injuries. The Arsenal fan here, we know about injuries. It just stinks. I want to see the best players out there performing. And if Everton lose with the best players, then they lose. But I don't want to see them losing because they're bare boned from injuries.
And frankly, I've seen a lot of people have kind of fun a little bit at Lampard. Lampard's maybe weirdly not necessarily always been liked because I guess his background, essentially.
Mm-hmm.
Came from a pretty wealthy, I think, background. I think, but
Yeah, his dad was a player.
yeah, and I guess the West Ham, upbringing, and then the Chelsea. But anyways, this isn't his fault to having a squad just completely depleted already. And we mentioned how Chelsea, you don't know where the goals are going to come from Chelsea, and I think it's good to touch on Everton. I don't know where the goals are going to come from Everton if Dominic Calvert-Lewin is going to have
Yeah,
another long, injury stint. It's not good just on week one for him to already miss. And you saw who they have for replacements. He he didn't start with a striker essentially in the
yeah.
game, and then brought on Dele Alli. I didn't think Dele Alli looked good at all. He didn't look fit. He looked
No,
slow, maybe heavy. That was worrying to me. And
yeah, because they're gonna need him for sure.
it seemed Dwight McNeil was confused on what his role was supposed to be. He was like a fake
Mhm.
wide player, but wasn't. Anthony Gordon looked good for them. But I
Yeah,
I don't know where any of their goals are going to come from. Maybe they can get
yeah,
stuff on set pieces and survive that way. Um, I mean, they do have Pickford, who can maybe put on his like Nick Pope performance and just save a lot of games that way because you worry about their defense and back line. If Michael Keane's
yeah,
going to play a lot of games for them, I because you remember last year, Samish Coleman was playing center back for them in like a back three because they were
yeah.
so depleted. So to
Hmm.
not just use Yuri Mina, but also Godfrey, that's crushing. So bring Conor Cody in. I guess that's that'll help a little bit. Conor Cody's pretty good actually he's one of the better passing center backs. So that'll help. They are. I think it's like officially done because I even saw him in the stands during the game. They could bring in
Yeah, it's
Amadou
done.
Onana in,
Hmm.
who's a very good midfielder. This guy is like Wilfred Ndini, but like skillful on the ball. Um,
Yeah.
it's Frank. This is a guy like United should have like been going for. We'll get to them as well. So,
Mm,
so he'll be a good signing for them. So him and
yeah.
Decore is pretty good steal in the midfield, but again, you just don't see where the goals are going to come from. They should have gotten
No, it's
Cornet, not Dwight McNeil.
oh yeah. Well, I think it might. Yeah, good point. I think it might want to be one of those things where they're like, let's just try to be scrappy, keep clean sheets. Maybe we can counter and get a goal,
Mhm.
and let's just claw out results until Dominic Calvert-Lewin's back. But I mean, that's kind of what they tried to do last year, and then he came back and had another couple setbacks. So why not go out and buy a striker?
I mean,
You're gonna need one. I guess
the only other
they don't
guy
want to spend on a big
is
money one, but
is Rondon. Um, he wasn't able to play because he was like red carded out, I guess, for the last two games or whatever. So I guess he was like serving a suspension. Um,
hmm.
but relying on another season of Rondon,
Yeah, we talked about last year. Like he's not he's a decent backup, but he's not going to be a good starter. So Dominic Calvert-Lewin injury prone. You got to get a decent cover for him, especially now you know that he gets injured a lot.
And just I guess retouch on Chelsea. Chilwell is actually able to help draw the PK, and it is interesting that they bring in Cucurella. Maybe that piped up Chilwell a little bit. So maybe that was on the
Hmm.
back of his mind. And one thing I was very interested to see was they brought on Broja in that second half, and maybe Broja's kind of their. I don't know if they're thinking about selling him, but maybe he's their answer to some of their goal problems. Now I
Yeah,
think he only had like maybe 6 or 7 goals for Southampton,
6 goals.
but I think
Yeah.
that was playing at Southampton. You surround him
Hmm.
with a team with possession. I think he can bag a few more. He's got a good finish on him, and
Yeah, I
he's
think so
he's
too.
very good at making runs.
He's probably going to be like a power sub too, so he really is going to have an impact because he's only going to play probably 20-30 minute game for off the bench for Chelsea most of the time. So yeah, I agree though. I want to see him play, and I want to see Conor Gallagher play too. And it's a crowded midfield there,
Mhm.
and it's even more crowded now with Gallagher. So Gallagher has to push too. I mean, so this competition should be good for the squad because they have a lot of good players in the same position. So they're going to be a little friendly competition every practice. It feels like.
I mean, I think Chelsea are going to have to at some point start selling. They've got so
Yeah.
many people on their squad. They can field two, maybe even three squads at the moment because Kovacic didn't play in this game. You would figure he's going to eventually factor in. I don't know where Conor Gallagher is going to be able to get in. They're linked.
Mhm.
They're seriously linked to Frankie De Jong now, um,
Yeah, be crazy.
and they're also linked to Barca's Memphis Depay. He's not a midfielder, but they keep trying to go get people when they probably need to
Mhm.
have some
Yeah,
some some outgoings.
they'd have to get rid of like Ziyech or something at least. Yeah.
Hmm. Yeah, maybe you just saw that with them getting rid of Werner. Maybe that's just kind of the start.
Yeah.
So,
True.
all right. So moving on to Spurs and Southampton. This ends 4-0. Frankly, I don't want to say this is necessarily as predictable as the other one, but I'm kind of worried about Southampton to be honest, because
Mhm.
actually it ends 4-1 because they get the first goal and
Yeah.
it doesn't bother Spurs at all. And Spurs get 4 goals and not one from Kane or Son. And so one thing I'm going to ask you is, we did predictions last week. I had Spurs as fourth. I'm starting to wonder, should we make it? Should we think of Spurs more as a title contender now?
Maybe.
Because
Yeah. I don't know. I'm worried about their defense. Down the stretch. But yeah, this was a pretty good performance, and like you said, it's amazing Son and Kane didn't score, and they still scored 4 goals. So yeah, it's looking really bright, and they still have like Long Lay at center back. He didn't play in this one, or he didn't start in this one.
yeah, no,
So
all of their
they do
signings
have a
didn't start.
potential there.
All of their startings didn't
Hmm.
start this game. The
Yeah, and they
Spurs
got some good ones.
Spurs all of a sudden have a pretty good bench now. But
Basuma didn't start. Yeah, good point.
I mean, the thing I was thinking of is if maybe City just run away with the league because I don't think Liverpool are going to be able to match the points that they did last year. So I've been thinking, you know, maybe somehow Kevin De Bruyne is tired after a long World Cup run in Belgium. Or maybe they suffer a little bit somehow. If 85 points is what it takes to win the league, or something under 85, I think Spurs could get that. Maybe 83 or so.
Mm.
Oh, or maybe Arsenal could even
Mm.
be in that discussion. So if it does come to that, I do think we should look at Spurs maybe more seriously. Um,
Mm.
but one thing I'm going to I guess kind of mention. This isn't really about the game. Is it's really shocking because we're about to get to another team. Christian Eriksen decided to go to Man United and not Spurs. I understand leaving Brentford, I guess, even though Brentford took a shot on you, but it made no sense joining Ten Hag's project because it's not like United have Champions League when you could have rejoined Conte. You have the interconnection and rejoined the club that you almost won a Premier League and almost won Champions League with. I think if Ericsson
Yeah.
had gone to Spurs, I would maybe I would maybe put them over City at the moment
And he would have
because
stayed in London too.
they're missing one creative midfielder to pick out the passes because you can't have Kane doing that. Kane likes
Yeah,
playmaking these days.
he drops too deep.
Drops too deep. You want Kane to be on the end of headers, and Ericsson's that one player you could bring on maybe in like locked games where he could save you a point or win you three. And I think that's just one. Maybe they're linked to Madison. They're missing that one creative midfielder. I feel like
Mhm.
so.
Well, if they
We'll
had Madison, ooh.
we'll see. We'll see. And I mean with Southampton, yeah, I mentioned I was worried about them to start the season. Nothing about that has changed my thinking on that.
Yeah, I mean, Aribo might have to step up. He's from the Scottish Premier League, so I don't know how quickly he'll acclimate. But I mean, it just seems like you said, the only one that's going to score is Ward Prowse on like maybe a free kick or something, you know. Um, so yeah, probably more trouble for Southampton. Armstrong probably not good enough. Che Adams didn't play at all, and I was kind of like last week saying he's the only one
Hmm.
besides Ward Prowse that could maybe score goals, and he didn't even play. So I don't know. And they have Lavia from the young guy from City
Yeah,
in midfield too.
did you see this guy's highlights? He actually impressed. He's like the one maybe positive.
He's good,
Yeah,
hmm
and
but
of course he's at City.
he's so young too. Yeah, he was at City. He's so young though too. So like I worry about how he'll hold up as well.
Hmm.
Um, but I don't know. I mean, we'll see. It's a lot of goals to concede, and you know Southampton's coming out trying not to concede with five in the bank, and they scored four. So I'm worried about Southampton too. We know they have a penchant for getting blown up in some games, a couple 7-0s the last couple seasons.
They
So
do
it could happen
9-0s.
again this season. Yeah, not yet. Whew.
All right, and we'll finally get to like I'll say like maybe the fun game or maybe even the second fun game in Manchester United and Brighton on the weekend. So this ends since 2-1 to Brighton. And one thing we should say going in is basically the pregame talk was Ronaldo asking for a transfer and not featuring really in the
Mhm.
preseason, and Martial being hurt, and that kind of maybe showed up a little bit here because it starts off with United not even playing with a striker. It was almost like Bruno and Christian Eriksen, and maybe
Mhm.
Rashford trying to make
And
runs on the
Rashford.
wing, and that did not work at all. But we'll just get started. Pascal Gross gets the first two goals. Um, the first goal is a really a disaster point from United's perspective. So I don't know if you like caught this, but there's like a header from a corner kick. The ball goes out of bounds, and they're just trying to show the replay. I guess like the attempt, and as they're doing the replay, United quickly like take the goal kick fast, but they I guess De Gea just I guess kicks the ball to Harry Maguire, and Harry Maguire gives it back to De Gea. And it's just so stupid because De Gea is bad with his feet, and De Gea doesn't want to go short. Doesn't want to. He's like he's taking forever on the ball, and he just decides to go long. And so he immediately gives the ball away. Brighton chest it down, but it's a bad chest. And Eriksen's first able to get on the ball. But what happens is McTominay runs to Eriksen and basically takes the ball off him. And it looks like McTominay maybe has a chance to maybe make a run and start some kind of counter. And he runs over the ball and basically he gets the ball kicked off him by Casado and I think it's Alex McAllister. And Casado is able to basically kind of start Brighton's counterattack. The ball gets to Trossard. Trossard has acres of spaces. Sancho's not marking him at all, and Dallo is marking grass. I don't know what Dallo is doing. And Trossard's able to just
Yeah.
take forever on the ball and looks up. And there's a fantastic run made by Welbeck to get behind Harry Maguire. Once again, Harry Maguire, we'll get into him. And
Yeah.
Welbeck makes a fantastic run to get in behind and fires the ball across goal that Pascal Gross is able to knock in. And the second goal is even more insane, to be honest, because Man United have Brighton pinned down all the way, basically like on the corner flag. And Trossard's able to just kind of hold on the ball. There's a clever backheel flick to free, it might be Casado as well. Casado was able to basically nudge off McTominay, and Brighton were able to just kind of pass the ball in for the second goal. It's shambolic, to be honest. But everyone's going to spend all this time talking about United, and I guess we will as well. But let's talk about Brighton. Potter continues to amaze me, to be honest. I I've been a fan of him for a little bit, but I want to say it was almost in a joking fashion. It was like kind of like the hip thing to be. Oh, I'm gonna support I'm gonna talk up Graham Potter as like maybe being England's national coach. I now truly believe that he should, if the second Southgate gets knocked out in Qatar, they should be on the phone, basically asking him,
Yeah,
or maybe I
it's a
guess
good shot.
Eddie Howe I guess is going to get some phone calls as well. But it's not
Yeah,
just yeah, he's good tactically. Did you see what he did with the wingbacks today or in this game? He played Trussard and Sully Marsh, who aren't really defensive wingbacks. They're like really super attacking players, and both are basically responsible for the goal. He's just
yeah,
creative that way. They're able to lose Ben White. They're able to lose Basuma. Cucurella doesn't really
overall,
affect them
yeah.
that much.
hmm
Um, s-
Lamptey didn't play in this one either.
yeah,
Um, yeah, I think I agree. He does a lot with less than most managers have, and he still gets results.
I mean, frankly, I guess we'll start off. Should this even be a surprise? Because it was only April. Brighton smashed the same United side. It didn't have Martinez playing, and I guess that side had Ronaldo. They beat them 4-0.
Yeah,
So it's just maybe this is kind of we should maybe expect Brighton to do this a little bit more. Um, I mean, uh, what did you think of Casado's performance? I guess he's another player to highlight. Uh,
yeah, he's another good player that they picked up, and he was amazing. I didn't really know much about him, but he was really good. So that's like another hit on for Potter. But I mean, yeah, I guess we shouldn't be surprised at Brighton performing well. But I thought we'd see a little bit more out of United just with Ten Hag really getting the preseason going strong.
yeah,
Thought maybe it would continue a little bit, but I do have. I mean, McFred, the combo of them was just terrible. Maguire, like you said, is just too slow. Get him out of there. Martinez, it should have been probably you had to pick, I would do Maguire with Varane, and then put Martinez in left back for Shaw because Martinez is too small, I think, to play center back. So
yes.
I just and Ericsson as the false nine didn't necessarily work either. And I've been saying it. I think Bruno is just fatigued. He just doesn't provide the same like energy that he did when he first came in and he was providing all these goals and assists. He
That's
just looks
interesting.
tired to me
I
still.
didn't think of that. That actually could be a really good point because he got to a point where he was undroppable. He played every game
Yeah,
under
yeah, they
Ollie.
couldn't.
Maybe he is
They had
fatigued
to rely on him. He played so much, and then you go off and play for Portugal too.
because
So he didn't really get breaks.
he doesn't look the same player anymore. I think there's
Mhm.
something to that. Um,
Yeah,
but one thing to stick on Brighton, and then we can get into the fun with United, is we have to talk about Danny Welbeck. Um, I was kind of texting to Jeremy. I completely forgot he was a United player at one point. I remember him at Arsenal,
Mhm.
but he didn't score
yeah,
many goals for Arsenal either. So he's like
Mhm.
one of these like career journeymen. But it seems like he's finally found his footing at Brighton. He's only
yeah,
31 now, so he hasn't always had the best injury record. I think that's maybe held him back. But it,
yeah, definitely.
the way he was able to collect balls kicked over the top was like it was picture. Uh,
He's in great shape this year too.
it was like Zidane-esque, like the way he was able to just like the first touch he had. I didn't think he had that in him, to be honest. And the runs
Yeah,
he made. Oh, he was just causing United's backline problems all game. And frankly,
yeah,
you know, we
he's so quick too. And
I mean,
Maguire up against it is a nightmare for Maguire.
we can talk about all the we can talk about Trossard, what Solly Marsh did. We can talk about Casado. All this doesn't really matter. All this like clever footballing doesn't matter without someone making the runs in behind to stretch the field because that's the reason why it was causing issues. That's the reason why Trossard was able to
Mhm.
have space because they were so worried about Welbeck's runs in behind them. And they put in a good shift for them as well last year. Like he didn't always start. It used to be like
Mhm.
Marpai. So
Yeah, it was.
I mean, frankly, it, I'm starting to wonder. Like, well, maybe Welbeck can go a whole season, but it just seems Brighton still need a goal scorer just in case.
Mhm.
Because they kind of I guess we'll say petered out in that second half. United maybe had a chance to get a draw here, but it just they had. I mean, and I was also kind of surprised about the passing. They only had 230 passes, but
Yeah,
they were going long. But just the way they have so many players that are good on the ball, it was stunning. It was night and day in their midfield compared to what you mentioned, McFred, and that is what we are going to get into. because
Mm.
I feel like, to start off, I feel the joke was United maybe have upset at the football gods after getting a PK awarded to them versus Brighton a couple years back when the whistle had blown.
Oh
Because
yeah.
it has been all negative after that, and Brighton have remembered that too because they've started to ratchet up the scoreline against United recently. But I mean, what should United fans be thinking about this? Because maybe on the devil's advocate here can be you didn't have Ronaldo in that first half. They didn't have a striker in the first half. Is that maybe just a one-off, or are there significantly other issues bigger than that were exposed? That's a big problem that they need to. Yeah.
Yeah, there's some big problems. I mean, their defense is shambolic at times, and there's not a lot right now that can help that. Maybe Varane, but I mean, and Fred McTominay. I mean, the only thing you could really do is like put Van de Beek in there and get him some play. He came in off the bench, but I'd like to maybe see him start, see what he can do.
Yes.
Maybe have him over Fred and McTominay. Because Fred was just he was terrible passing. McTominay
If Fred was trying
is
to
kind of
pass it. Fred was trying to pass it to
yeah.
the Brighton players in a
God,
bunch of
yeah,
in a bunch
it
of
was
times. He forgot
it
how to
was
pass
bad.
it to a
It
red
was,
shirt.
and then McTominay wasn't good either. He's
Mm.
slow, and his touch was awful in this one. So yeah, I mean, I want to see Van de Beek start, and maybe put in Varane for with Maguire, and then put Martinez out at left back because I'm worried about their defense. It's not good.
Yeah, I mean, and we're definitely touch on Maguire because Maguire just isn't going to get better, and I don't know what you do with him because one of the issues they link to someone like Van de Beek. I mean, not Van de Beek, Frankie De Jong. If you try to play Frankie De Jong in midfield and like a pivot, he likes going forward, and if United get caught on transitions, you have no cover for someone with Harry Maguire, and so that's he would work so much better at Chelsea because you have Koulibaly behind him that can at least handle 1v1s and has
Yeah,
has recovery pace. Maguire is quick. He's standing on a cement block. He can't move,
he's so slow.
and you can't play a high line either. So I mean, he like forces you. He exposes them in a lot of ways, and so even like this idea of like replacing McFred or changing the midfield, I don't think it changes Maguire. And I'm going to get into what I think is a sneaky problem. And this is going to sound like he'll say it to you, United fans. I think De Gea is a problem for them. Uh,
Mhm.
he's so good at saving the ball, but these days you need to be well rounded with your feet, and he gives the ball away. He's afraid to play passes. Uh, he was going side to side, like he would have the ball and he would just give the ball to Maguire. Maguire wouldn't know what to do. He'd give the ball to De Gea, and then De Gea would like freak out and either kick the ball out of bounds or give the ball away. Try a long ball to no one. You trying a long ball to Christian Eriksen. Like who do you think is going to win that battle versus like center backs? Um,
Yeah, sure.
so and one thing that's weird is in a weird way, I think Ten Hag has gone to recreate the Bruno and Pogba problem where it got to a point where you didn't know how they were going to play together at the same field. I don't know how you can play Christian Eriksen and Bruno at the same time. Both seem to kind of want to be in the same position, both want to get in the same spaces. And frankly, in the second half, you mentioned Van de Beek coming on. Christian Eriksen actually kind of played deeper in that second half. But personally, after watching what he did at Brentford, I want Christian Eriksen to be the one in the ball making decisions in the final third, not to be the guy doing the supply to get the ball into the final third. And so, and another thing too is you can play Christian Eriksen, Van de Beek, and you can play Bruno all at the same time, and you can be a fun FIFA like team. But good luck when you lose the ball, and good luck defending transitions.
You just give up a whole lot of goals. Yeah,
Yeah. So there's a lot for Ten Hag to do that I don't think he can. Bringing Frankie De Jong in, I mentioned like last week, maybe that would change my thinking. After watching that, I don't think so. I don't think De Jong fixes that. So
yeah.
we'll
They would need like a really good center back and De Jong to be, you know, just even a little bit better.
I mean, maybe they'll have. Maybe Ten Hag's gonna have to change formations. I don't think they can do what they did. And
Yeah,
I thought Dallo was poor. I was kind of
yeah. I'm not a
surprised.
fan of him either.
I was kind of surprised about that. No,
Hmm.
so I don't know if you need to replace him either. I mean, you need to have good
Yeah,
fullbacks or wingbacks to be in this league now. So I don't know. I mean, were there any positives? I guess maybe Ericsson. I mean, Rashford. I guess looked okay in that second half when Ronaldo was back in. So
Yeah, that's true. And you have some players on the bench that came in and played well, like you said. But man, I don't know. I don't. There's not a lot of positives to take from it. I mean, they didn't even score a goal. Technically, it was an own goal.
mhm.
So I don't know. I think the only positive maybe is that this was Ten Hag's first real Premier League game,
Yeah,
and so there's going to be some growing pains. But man, not a lot of positives to take away for me. So I don't know if you had any, but didn't look good.
yeah. I mean, I did maybe Ericsson. I thought he didn't necessarily play a foot wrong, but he creates a different problem. I don't know what you do with Bruno at that point. And it seems like they're going to just stick with Ronaldo because they can't necessarily find someone to take his wages, and that's stalling. I guess another year where I don't. Yeah, the squad building in the last 5 years has been shambolic. Um,
Yeah,
so,
good
and,
point.
and that's not Ten Hag's
That's a
fault,
good point.
but it
No,
just
yeah.
I mentioned them for maybe sixth or fifth place. I think I said sixth. It might be worse. It might
Yeah, it could be like 10th or
this might take some
things.
time. Yeah, yeah. But
Yeah,
like you said,
not
week
good.
one, and they get maybe they get some relief next week, or maybe not. Well, so that gets us to the next game with Brentford and Leicester. And this started with Jeremy literally texting me saying, "F my life." Um, he was not enjoying the first half. So it starts off with Cassania getting a header off a corner kick. Jeremy was like, "Brentford's been bad on corners
Yeah,
all
last year
preseason."
they were terrible at it last year too.
And so, like, one thing they've done is Brentford's actually switched from playing basically with three center backs to playing a back four. And here is like what that's done is you've Heron Hickey, and you don't have Edger for this game, but they're like smaller defending set pieces, and so you kind of saw that. And then Dewsbury Hall had what I thought was maybe goal of the week, just an
Mhm.
absolute thunder shot. And it's not necessarily something where you can blame Rhea. It's just this I don't want to say Tiago yes, but this ball doesn't get more than a few feet in the air. It's got the right amount of spin. That's an awesome hit. And
Oh yeah, it
he
was a
had a
rope.
fantastic game. And that's Leicester didn't have the best season last year, as everyone notices. But one of their gems or one of their positives was finding Dewsbury Hall last year, and he looks to be another really good player for them. So. But then everything kind of changed. Ivan Toney's able to get it back to 2-1, and then Josh Da Silva is able to win back a point. So let's I don't know. No, we mentioned it. It really was a wild game in that first. I want to say that that first half, Leicester was looking like the Leicester. I was thinking I had Leicester basically as a basically a Champions League contender last season, and you started to see a little while. I mean, Tielemans looked good, Madison looked good, Dewsbury
Yeah,
Hall.
Tillman to the post.
Dewsbury Hall looked good, and I thought Wilfred and Ndidi was. I mean, they were controlling the game. Brentford weren't getting a kick on it. Tony wasn't able to get any kind of touches, and all of that changed. So I don't know. I'm kind of gonna open the floor. What did you see that maybe kind of changed in that second half?
Well, for me, it was the substitutions
Hmm.
that both coaches made, because we talked about it a little bit. We teased it in the beginning, but only one sub made by Brendan Rodgers, and it's to take out their best player in the first half, Dewsbury Hall. And when he was gone, they were completely different.
Yes.
I don't know why he did that. I mean, he knows his players better than we do, so maybe there's something going on there where Dewsbury Hall maybe isn't fully fit or something. I don't know. But
Hmm?
it was the only sub he made, and it was just a really stupid one. He shouldn't have done it. It changed the way they played for
It was
for
because it
worse.
was a midfielder for an attacker.
Yeah, they brought in Daka,
Hmm.
and Daka didn't do that great. And then Frank, though, on the other hand, makes a couple really good subs. Josh Da Silva and Keen Lewis Potter comes on and makes his debut, and they kind of changed the game. I felt like Da Silva scored a great goal on his left, a beautiful curler. Um, Tony was good too. It was good subs by Frank that changed the game, and the combo of one really bad sub by Leicester and Brendan Rodgers. I don't know why he did that still. But yeah, it was a good game. I watched all of this game, and it was one of the more enjoyable Premier League games of the week for sure.
Hmm.
Because it was just completely different Brentford in the second half versus the first half, and then it was the opposite for Leicester, completely different in the second half than they were in the first. And I think the subs have to do a lot with it. Subs on both sides.
Yeah, and it's funny you mentioned how it was more one of the more exciting ones because I want to say 16 minutes in, I was really regretting not watching the United game because I think Jeremy was actually watching both, and he was like, "Brighton looks so good," and I was like, "Damn it."
Mm.
Um,
Yeah, I didn't watch any of the Brighton one, just the highlights, unfortunately.
and so one thing that's one thing that really happened is, and Jeremy actually said or read later that they Brentford actually worked on a formation change where like if they were down in games, what they would do, and so they took Ben Mee off. They moved Janelt basically back to be center back. I guess Janelt's a better with his feet, and
Mhm.
so they went to a back three. And the reason why this was like kind of funny is I think Brendan Rodgers was going to just bring on a second striker to maybe like do some balls over the top. They figured Brentford would have to go back, would have to expose themselves, and that would allow for counter opportunities. And that didn't happen because at any point in time, Leicester had basically two guys running versus three, and anytime Leicester were trying to press with Daka and Vardy, it was 2v3. And so they were outnumbered, and Brentford were able to really control the game from that point, and they weren't really exposed, defensively either. So
Yeah.
it was a really good move by him. It's weird to talk about going to a back three. People think that can maybe be defensive. In this case, it wasn't. You mentioned
It worked.
Potter coming on. Potter wasn't great, but he offered some runs and was different. De Silva was excellent. Just
Mhm.
and he later took off Norgard and brought on Batiste, and it just seemed Brentford was just a much more physical side in that second half, where they were the ones kind of causing a little havoc. They were getting the turnovers. They were kind of
Mhm.
controlling possession. And one thing that you mentioned Rodgers only making one sub. I think it's almost fireable. I
Mhm.
kind of tweeted about that because it was a hot day. They kept talking about that all game. Basically, the commentators were like, "We'll see 10 subs just because it's so hot." You're given five in this. You only have 3 windows, but you're given five this season. His bench
Mhm.
wasn't exactly, it's not like his bench was struggling. Uh,
He's got some players that he could have brought on. Iheanacho is one of them for sure. Maybe Prayat, Mendy are some good players that could have changed the game, and he sat them. It's bizarre. And yeah, good call on it being hot. It was ridiculously hot too. And I mean, they kind of slowed down the second half. Just would make sense to bring on 2 or 3 more subs, especially when they're not playing well in the second half. Like, why not freshen things up?
mhm. And so one thing we should say about De Silva, and Jeremy's kind of talked about this guy. I would say for maybe a couple years now. Really since he's like been following Brentford. I think he's maybe an Arsenal academy product.
He was, yeah, an Arsenal player. Yeah.
And he, for a few years, I guess maybe a couple seasons ago, he thought a big club was going to go get him, and then he suffered a really bad like leg injury, so it's taken some time to recover. So
Yeah.
it's really awesome to see him kind of get this moment for him. So that's pretty
Mhm.
cool to get back into fitness and to also be the hero in some respects.
Yeah.
And
He, he might have earned his starting spot too for next week.
it was a fantastic goal, like you said.
Oh yeah,
And
beautiful.
some more good news for Brentford, and I'll say this kind of tongue in cheek, but they get to play McFred and Harry Maguire next week. Um, but no, it looks like it looks like it's official that they've been able to sign Mikael Damsgaard as maybe Christian Eriksen's replacement. So we'll
Hmm.
see how that works out. And frankly, this is almost like I want to say storybook. Um, but it's kind of funny because I've been wondering. Well, they need to find a way to replace Christian Eriksen, and so it kind of makes sense to go. Well, what happened when Denmark lost Christian Eriksen in the Euros? They
True.
played Dansgaard as basically Christian Eriksen's replacement, and he played.
And they
He had
went
a
pretty
pretty good
far.
Euros. Yeah,
He did. Yeah, he
and he didn't necessarily have the
scored
best
against England too. I think, didn't he?
with a beautiful, I
I
think,
think.
free kick goal. Yeah,
Yeah, free kick. Yeah.
and so he didn't necessarily have the best time in Serie A this past season. Jeremy mentioned he was diagnosed with something, but it seems maybe this is like just Moneyball-esque by Brentford, where they just feel with the way that advanced medicine is these days, it's not that big of an issue. And
Yeah.
Brentford's a perfect club because they just experienced this with Ericsson. They're the ones that took the
Another
gamble on him.
Danish. Another Danish player too. So yeah,
That
it's
as well.
perfect.
Yeah, this is so it's. I'm hoping this works out for them because this is a pretty cool story, and if it does, this will maybe be one of the more feel good stories of the year. So I'll be, and it's not just sentimental. He's a good player. And he's maybe kind of the player that they need. They need some more of a something different. They need someone to be able to get the ball to Tony and Bremo because in that first half, Tony wasn't getting anywhere near the ball. So.
Yeah, that's true.
And so let's move on to. I think we're doing okay for time. Maybe speed it up a little bit. We'll go to Newcastle and Nottingham Forest. This one ends 2-0. First with a goal from Fabian Schär, and I mentioned the Dewsbury Hall strike. This was good as well. This was a
Yeah.
firecracker, and Callum Wilson had a wonderful kind of outside the book flick goal. So both goals in this game were very good. So let's get started with Newcastle. I think it's kind of interesting how we mentioned everyone knows about the takeover with the new owners that they have. Within a very short time, I already think they have one of the better midfields in the entire league, to be honest. And this is credit maybe to Eddie Howe, to be honest, but just Joe Linton and Bruno Guimaraes complement each other, and then
They do.
out of nowhere, Joe Willock looked amazing in this game, and I had almost forgotten about him. Um,
Yeah.
I remember him being having a really good run in that bubble where he scored like I don't know 7 goals in the last like 8 games for them, and
Almost saved them. Yeah.
maybe help keep Newcastle up in that stretch.
Mm,
Willock looked awesome in this game. He was quick. He was quick with his feet. He was cutting. He was combining really well with Miguel Almiron. I mean, Newcastle only scored 2 goals. They could have had a lot more. They forced seven
yeah.
saves out of Henderson. I don't know. What did I guess I'll just kind of throw it up to you. What were your thoughts? I guess of Newcastle or I guess Forest.
Yeah, I mean, Forrest put up a decent resistance in the first half. They just didn't have enough. Immediately off the bat, I was kind of disappointed in the lineup. I kind of wanted to see Taiwo Awoniyi,
Hmm.
and he came off the bench because I think he could be a good goal scorer for them. Lingard was okay. Again, like I mean, Sturridge and Johnson in front of him. I think he needs, Awoniyi and then maybe some other players.
Hmm.
I mean, it wasn't it wasn't a terrible start, but they have a lot of new players too, so it's going to take them a while to kind of get used to playing with each other. But not a bad start. I think Newcastle was pretty good, and your shout for the midfield being one of the better ones is I think that's a pretty good shout, especially if they can. Willock kind of has some injury issues, same with Joe Linton, but if they can stay healthy, it's a good midfield, and they also have Sven Botman coming off the bench in this one. So I think it's good for Newcastle. I also heard they might be interested in getting like another good winger. Maybe I heard maybe Pepe just kind of as a
Interesting.
another option.
No, they're
Yeah, I
linked
don't know
to
if that'll happen.
that Leverkusen's not Dubas,
Diaby,
Diaby. Yeah.
Diaby, yeah, he's really good too. So yeah, if they got another player like that, I mean, they could be challenging for Europe, Europa,
I'm with you.
maybe Conference League,
I think they're just one
maybe even
signing
Champions
away.
League.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's crazy. And they haven't necessarily gone out and bought like big star players per se. So
They're
they've
just
still been,
really smart with their money.
getting,
Like Kieran Trip,
yeah, really
like
smart.
They got Kieran Trippier for I think like 30 million, and maybe people didn't realize how good of a signing this was. Now he only played like
Mm,
3 games for them last season because he broke his
yeah,
leg. But a broken leg is not necessarily a muscle injury. And so
mm,
and it seems like Trippier has been able to recover. He was great again in this game. Um, I'm with you kind of on maybe the negative is they don't necessarily have the bench depth. So like if something does happen to one of their midfielders or Callum Wilson, they could maybe struggle. But and say
yeah,
Maxian has he's so quick. Sometimes he gets muscle injuries as well. But that full healthy that starting 11 is a lot of fun to watch. And
yeah.
Bruno Guimaraes, he can play deep but also advance. He had some through balls that were just ugh. It was not fair.
Mhm.
They looked really good in this game, and
Yeah.
I'm a little fearful of them because Liverpool will play them in a couple of weeks, and I'm trying to
Yeah.
imagine
Ooh.
Harvey Elliott and James Milner versus that midfield, and
Yeah.
I'm not liking it. I'm not liking it. Um, and you mentioned that Forrest. Basically, they're starting a whole new team, so I guess it's going to take some
Mhm.
time for them to
Oh yeah.
get the right lineup. But I did not like how I don't think they had a shot on goal, or even a shot. Maybe they had a shot. I don't think they had a shot on goal. I don't think they
They,
forced a save.
they had 5 shots, but none on target.
Okay, yeah, and
Yeah, and this had 23 and 10 on target.
I was a little disappointed because I think Brennan Johnson could be maybe a hidden gem this season. He's going to be someone I'm going to definitely be watching when Wells play in Qatar, um, and I didn't necessarily see enough from him. So, and
Yeah, I
Lingard, we
agree.
didn't necessarily see a whole lot from Lingard.
Hmm.
So maybe more to come
Yeah, definitely.
from Forest. So.
I think so. Yeah, I think they'll be figuring things out and getting used to playing with each other. Hopefully, because they do have some talent that I look forward to watching.
All right, and let's see how we are for time. All right, we're at an hour 30, so we'll probably go 1:45. So we'll go to Leaves Wolves. This one ends 2-1. Uh, Goals from Daniel Pedence, Rodrigo, and an own goal from Nore. Unfortunately, Brendan Aronson celebrating. We were celebrating along with him.
Yeah.
Um, uh, that's frankly his goal because if Nore doesn't get there, Aronson's tapping it in.
Yeah.
But I
Oh
mean,
yeah.
this is the big one we were waiting for. Leeds have done some good things in the preseason, but this is the a couple teams thought like Aston Villa. I guess we'll get to. Also had a couple of good results in the preseason. That hasn't always showed up. So I
Yeah.
didn't necessarily think they played that great, but they were able to get the win. Brendan Aronson I thought was fantastic. So
It was great.
yeah.
Yeah.
So I don't know. What were your thoughts, Rex?
Well, they have a pretty good midfield as well. Roca's from Bayern,
Hmm.
only cost 10 million, and then they got American Tyler Adams, so I might be a little biased there. And then Rodrigo was really good too. Bamford missed a couple chances he probably could have put away, but it was just good to see him play and have him back and creating opportunities. And he's healthy and he made it through this one. He got subbed out just as precaution, probably not fully fit yet,
Hmm.
but it's good to have him back. And I think this Leeds team is a lot better. I'm a little worried about their defense still because it's kind of some guys that we're not necessarily. I'm not sold on these guys necessarily playing well, getting clean sheets, but I think they have a good midfield. They have two really good number sixes and Roca and Adams that can kind of shield the defense. And we talked about last week, if they can get Bamford scoring a lot of goals, it'll kind of make up for Rafinha being gone, I think. And
Yeah,
Roca and Adams can
they have
hopefully make up for Kevin Phillips being
they
gone.
have Sinistera that I guess
Oh
wasn't
yeah,
able to play. So I guess you can play Jack Harrison
Sinister is
or
going to be good
Sinistera.
too.
Sinistera is going to be creative. Uh, so
Yeah,
uh,
he's good.
uh, and yeah, Bamford had a header that forced a pretty good save out of Saw. Frankly, I had Bamford on my fantasy team. And I was a little upset, and Aronson didn't get that goal because that would have been Bamford assist. Um,
Yeah, you're right.
But I mean, one maybe negative I would say is this was Bees football to the max. It didn't seem like they had a second gear to not press the entire game. So I don't know how necessarily you can do that for the first game, uh, and you
Yeah,
can maybe do even though it was hot in England for all of these games. So, but
yeah,
I don't know if you can necessarily do that for a full season. And it didn't seem they had a backup plan. So that's maybe the one negative. But they're able to. I thought they were kind of outplayed for the most part, and it doesn't really matter because they're able to get the 3 points. And I guess from Wolves' perspective, is Wolves actually looked pretty good, and they created a whole lot of chances. Now they are missing Raul Jimenez. Apparently, he has a pretty bad. He messed up his knee. He's maybe out for 8 weeks. So you kind of worry
really.
maybe where the goals are going to come from. But Wolves was so good defensively. I mean, Wolves were kind of a team that I probably had the most questions on going into the season. 'Cause
Me
I saw
too. Yeah,
some people maybe thinking because they didn't necessarily end well last year. Some people were thinking maybe they could struggle and be in a relegation fight. But after
yeah,
seeing this, I think they'll be fine. Neto is back from injury, and it doesn't look like he's lost pace. He was creating and being a threat. Daniel Podence, I'll probably get in trouble for this. I think he looks like Eden Hazard sometimes on the ball.
Hmm.
He's silky. And you got a Dama back. So w- I don't know. I mean, do you have any thoughts on Wolves?
I'm honestly I'm a little worried about him.
Hmm.
They need Jimenez back. They did get Guedes from Valencia, the Portuguese player, so he'll
Yeah,
help, I think. But yeah, Podence was good. Neves was good. Huang, I think Huang is a decent backup. I mean, they really are missing Jimenez for sure. But yeah, not bad. I mean, that defense was good last year. They had a bunch of clean sheets, so they're gonna have to keep it up. And I think they're solid on who they want at defense, especially loaning out Connor Cody. But I do just Guedes is good. I want them to get another striker in there or something. Gibbs White might be good. I don't know. We'll see about him. He had a good year last year.
yeah.
But I'm still a little worried about Wolves.
There was like a bid, a pretty high bid for Gibbs White, and they decided not to do it. So they guess have plans for him.
Yeah.
Yeah, we'll see. Uh, I mean, frankly, we've talked about a lot about midfielders or teams that maybe could use a midfielder. I'm kind of shocked that Neves has stayed at Portugal all this time. I think Neves could be in Portugal's World Cup starting 11. To be honest,
Yeah, it might be.
he already is just he's so good at he's really good at just recognizing where the danger is. But he's also very good with his decisions. He doesn't really lose the ball. He's a defensive minded player that controls games, and it's not like he's necessarily slow for pace either. So he impresses anytime I watch him. And Ait Nouri got the own goal, but if City were cheeky, they would maybe go get him because this guy is a City-esque player. He's very very
Mhm.
good, very quick. Causes trouble all the time. I didn't necessarily have the best game because he was also maybe at fault for the for both goals, or at least for the first goal.
Yeah.
Uh, so uh, yeah, he was. Yeah. You could say both goals because he owned goal. So I mean that is what it is. And then
Yeah.
finally, we'll get into Villa Bournemouth. This, I guess, is I don't think it's contender. I think it wins for a surprise of the opening weekend. So Villa ends up
Mm.
losing 2-0 to Bournemouth. It starts within the first few minutes with I guess it's kind of like a putback shot after a corner kick from Lerma, and then Kiefer Moore. Also, I think it's not necessarily from a corner kick. I think it's maybe uh, playing on from a free kick. I think the ball's like kicked in, and then the ball kind of. I think the ball is about to go out of bounds, and they save it, and then just there's like a cross in. Kiefer Moore
Yeah.
has a header from pretty far distance out, but yeah, Emmy Martinez is able to get anywhere near it. So yeah, I guess we'll kind of I don't know. You can kind of maybe praise Bournemouth.
Yeah.
I thought
Definitely.
Bournemouth they looked huge, especially compared to Villa. I remember watching because I actually watched this game live. Unfortunately, it wasn't the best game. Um,
Mm.
and I remember watching a still between like it was like Coutinho was like lining up against Philip Billing, who's like 6'4". He was a midfielder, and I was just like, and Bournemouth was able to win basically any ball in the air. Um, they only had completed I think like 150 passes, so they're not going to be like a footballing side. This is more of the old. If you like that Burnley ball, you're gonna like this team.
Well, yeah.
Um,
True.
and I couldn't tell if maybe it was a stadium angle, but I thought the field looked small.
Mm.
It combined everything. I mean, Villa played some nice stuff. But anytime they got the ball out wide, they were trying to cross the ball in, and it was like Danny Ings versus Towers. They weren't
Yeah.
able to
Danny
really
Ainge isn't tall
they
either.
weren't really able to create anything. And so I don't know what kind of get started. I mean, were there any positives that you saw for Villa?
I mean, they did have a decent amount of shots. They produced some opportunities, but man, I mean, it's a lot. They have a lot of attacking power. They could have changed things up. I mean, they could have. They have Luis, Buendia, and Watkins all on the bench.
Mhm.
So maybe put in Watkins instead of Ings. He's a little bit taller, knowing that you have a Bournemouth team that's huge at the back. But I think
Yeah,
they'll be okay.
I was
They just have
stunned.
a lot of that's a weird decision, but they have a lot of good attacking power, and Leon Bailey I think will be a really good player. Jacob Ramsey didn't necessarily have a good game but he's a good player too. They brought in Kamara from Fulham. He should be good. I think they'll be okay, but it is concerning for sure. But it might just be a case of we kind of overestimated a
I think so.
new
Yeah.
promoted team, maybe kind of thing. So I think they'll bounce back because they do have the players to do so. But I mean, it could be Gerard could be in trouble if they start losing because he has been backed by the owners and
Yeah.
they have a good team. So
That's what when you said like maybe we overreacted or overthought. You mentioned Bournemouth. I was thinking maybe Aston Villa, because I did I guess like a preseason thing. I think I had Villa like eighth. After seeing this,
hmm,
I am worried. And I guess this is overreaction on Monday or Tuesday, whatever it is. I guess this would be the team to overreact on, um, because you look, there is only Ollie Watkins to make these runs in behind. Otherwise, you're going to get the width from the fullbacks. Um, and I didn't like how new signing Diego Carlos didn't necessarily look that strong in the air. You know, it was kind of interesting. Tywin Mings used to be their captain. Tywin Mings
hmm,
was a healthy scratch, and I think if Mings had played, this is kind of like the dirty game where he's not necessarily he's got a mistake in him with his feet, but he's good in the air. It's possible maybe one or two of these goals could have been prevented by playing Mings instead. So that was a
yeah.
bit surprising, but I don't know. I personally think they need to go get someone left in the transfer window, and I actually have a player in mind, but I'll see if you have the same player.
Hmm. I don't know.
So I mentioned there really is only Ollie Watkins to kind of make these runs in behind, and I think that's what creates the space for Coutinho to kind of operate and have fun in. Because instead, and Danny Yanks was trying to like go to the ball, and Danny Yanks just wasn't offering anything at all. Um, I think they need someone else, and I saw a wonder goal yesterday in the Watford West Brom game in Ismail Assar.
Hmm. Ooh.
I you watch you watch the front three from Watford and you don't understand how Watford were able to keep them in the championship this whole time.
Yeah.
I think Everton could maybe do well to go get Dennis, but I would go get Sarr, and you could maybe play Watkins and Sarr together, and that would
Ooh.
change how Villa would play a little bit. Uh,
That's a
so
good shout.
and another problem I saw, and this kind of focusing a little bit more on Villa than Bournemouth, is I thought John McGinn was maybe their worst player, and John McGinn's now the new captain. So that can become an
Hmm.
issue because Douglas Luiz is better on the ball than John McGinn. I
Yeah, I
saw
think so too.
I saw a little Henderson, I saw a little hoofball, and I saw some bad touches from McGinn. So I mean maybe it was just an off day, but all right.
Hmm.
So kind of went over a little bit. Do you want to do a mini segment on what was your favorite goal of the weekend, and then kind of close out?
Yeah, sounds good.
All right.
You go first, though.
Well, yeah, I usually like homing it up, and Darwin would have been a pretty good contender, but additional replays showed that he actually misses it on the first go. So he like tries to do the back heel, he misses it, and it hits the Fulham player first, and it's the full because it bounces off the Fulham player, then it goes off the back heel to go in. So I'm
Ooh.
gonna disqualify that. Um, I'm gonna go with Callum Wilson's really cheeky kind of finish. It's a clever finish
Ooh.
with again the outside of his boot. It's one of those flicks that it just kind of loops over, and yeah, it was nice. So I'll go with that.
I like that one. I like Dewsbury Hall's goal, even though it was against Brentford. It was a nice goal, but I'm going with the same team, Newcastle, and Fabian Schär's strike
There we
for
go.
a center back. It was ridiculous. Like I did not expect a center back to shoot like that, especially Fabian Schär. And he was in some people's Premier League team of the week too, because he got that wonder goal and a shutout. So I'm gonna go with Fabian Schär's strike. It was a rocket.
Well, there we go. All of a sudden, we're a Newcastle podcast. And I guess we should say EPL focus show, but I mean Messi's bike
Yeah,
would be in contention, but
that was
doesn't
amazing.
also
Oh yeah.
doesn't count. So I don't know. Rex kind of went a little bit over, but I mean this was fun. So thank you again for joining me, and again we'll try to get Alex and Jeremy maybe next time. But
They're on vacation, or at
yeah,
least Alex is. What
and hopefully
was Jeremy doing? Jeremy's working, I guess.
I guess yeah. Well, we don't know what that is. Just kidding. So and from I guess me and Rex at the reserve squad, you guys stay squatty, and
Hey, squad
Stay
A.
squatty. All right, and stop recording.